What is going on, everyone? How are you doing? I hope you're doing good, because it is good to feel good. And before we get into the topic of this video, I just wanted to quickly say that I'm going to be voicing quite a few opinions here, one or two that might be unpopular, and you know, we can agree to disagree with what I talk about. And also the old saying, of course, is that every opinion is like arseholes and that everyone's got one. So yeah, let's crack on with this. So the topic of what I'm going to discuss in this video surrounds what happened this past week on WWE SmackDown regarding Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and The Rock. Yeah, it hasn't really gone down well, has it? I mean, no matter how hard WWE, TKO, or even The Rock himself tried to sugarcoat it, it hasn't been received well, and there has been a massive backlash. Like, for example, the video itself on YouTube for the full segment has, at the time of recording, in excess of 500,000 dislikes, as opposed to nearly 100,000 likes. And stuff like that doesn't go unnoticed. But, of course, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, starting, of course, with Roman Reigns, who, at the time of recording, is the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. In fact, his initial reign as Universal Champion is one of the longest in WWE history. In fact, the fourth longest reigning World Champion in WWE history, only behind Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan, and Bruno Sammartino. And of course, you know, he is going into WrestleMania this year, who is about to main event what is essentially his fourth straight WrestleMania in a row as champion. And you know, I think there was no doubt that he was going to main event WrestleMania again this year. There's people saying that, you know, maybe his long reign has kind of passed its sell-by date, and there are even people saying that, you know, his booking is very much jumped the shark in places. But you know what, for what it's worth, Roman Reigns is going to be in the main event of WrestleMania regardless. He is, you know, the biggest thing in the company right now, and you know, he has come close to being defeated countless times, but we will talk about that in just a moment. And yeah, I feel like Roman Reigns definitively, yes, he should be in the main event at WrestleMania this year. But then, of course, we then come on to the topic of Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. So, for a bit of background on Cody Rhodes, obviously left WWE in 2016. He was not happy with his position in the company. He didn't want to do this Stardust character anymore. So, he left WWE, you know. And from performing in front of like thousands of people in arenas week after week, and even appearing on WrestleMania countless times up until his release, he then went ahead to go and wrestle for the likes of TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and hell, countless independent promotions. And of course, Cody Rhodes was one of the founding fathers for All In, along with the Young Bucks, which of course was then the catalyst that led to the creation of AEW, which he was one of the executive vice presidents of the company with, along with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. And of course, he was in that promotion for 3 years before he eventually left. But I will say, you know, his booking in that company itself was quite hit and miss. You know, there are things that people really enjoyed that he was doing. There was things that people didn't necessarily enjoy that he was doing, but then, of course, he leaves in 2022. Then he, obviously, there's a kind of rumour and innuendo, where's he going to end up? And then, of course, on night one of WrestleMania 38 a few years ago, Cody Rhodes returns to WWE. He wrestles Seth Rollins on that night, and what was a great match, and then, of course, had 2 further matches on consecutive premium live events against Rollins, including the famous Hell in a Cell match where he's wrestling with a torn pectoral muscle. Honestly, how he did that is incredible, and, you know, power to Cody Rhodes. But then, of course, he was on the mend for 7 months, returns at the 23 Royal Rumble, wins the match itself, main events night 2 of WrestleMania last year against Roman Reigns, and comes up short. But then in the last year in particular, you know, it's kind of like he's been back to square one. He's got to kind of like fight for that position again. And, you know, he's done incredible for himself in the last year. You know, he had that feud with Brock Lesnar, which, you know, he beat him clean at SummerSlam, and even Brock Lesnar put him over after the match itself. He was briefly tag champions with Jey Uso. He was part of the winning team at War Games at Survivor Series. He won his 2nd Royal Rumble, like back-to-back Royal Rumbles, and he even was, you know, announced recently as the cover star of WWE 2K24, which is due to be released in a month's time. And then, of course, at the conclusion of the Royal Rumble, I think the signs are very clear, like, who he wants to challenge at WrestleMania. In fact, even after he finished pointing at the sign, he's pointing at the crowd at Roman Reigns particular, who's in his VIP box. And it's like, this is the road we're going for WrestleMania. And then we come to that segment on SmackDown. So coming into the segment, of course, it starts off with Roman Reigns basically verbally destroying and burying Seth Rollins and the World Heavyweight Championship, you know. So on Raw this past week, Rollins basically made an argument as to why Cody Rhodes should challenge him at WrestleMania as opposed to Reigns, and Cody of course said he will consider it. And then we get to SmackDown this past week where Roman starts off the segment, you know, burying the World Heavyweight Championship, saying it's the loser's belt, it's essentially a consolation prize, and, you know, if Cody is smart enough, he should challenge for it, and, you know, and if he wants to, you know, fall short against me again, then by all means challenge me for my title. Then, of course, Cody Rhodes comes out, you know, oozing with confidence. He's like, you know, he wants to finish the story, and I know, again, as I've mentioned before, that's basically become a running joke and a meme in itself. Then, you know, he wants to, you know, finish Roman Reigns. He wants to take everything away from him. But not at this year's WrestleMania. And he says that, you know, he's had counselling recently, and there's someone he was, you know, counselling with that knows the Roman Reigns very well. And then, of course, if you smell, and The Rock returns. Of course he does. And it's basically positions that The Rock is now going to challenge Roman Reigns instead of Cody Rhodes this year. And yeah, I took issue with it, I'll be completely honest. So to put this into perspective, The Rock has only appeared on WWE programming twice, prior to this segment, twice in the last year. So he appeared on an episode of SmackDown late last year along with Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. Then he appeared on the New Year's Day episode of Raw, where he was basically hinting that, you know, he wants to be the head of the table, a tongue-in-cheek reference to what Roman Reigns is as the tribal chief. And I kind of had my worries about this going into this segment, being like, I hope they're not doing it, because I know there's always going to be like rumour and innuendo in the wrestling world, like what are you going to read and what you know, what is true, what is fiction. And I know there was the kind of rumblings that, you know, Roman Reigns is being positioned to, like, you know, have this challenger be The Rock this year at WrestleMania. And I was like, okay, I'll just take everything with a pinch of salt. I'm not going to say anything until something is definitive. But then when this segment happens with, you know, Cody Rhodes, we all thought he was going to challenge Roman at that point. The Rock obviously just being like, yeah, I'm The Rock. I'm going to be in the main event. And also, internally, The Rock has recently joined the board of directors for TKO, which is, of course, the parent company of both WWE and UFC. And the way I perceived it is he's used his position in the company as a board of director to lobby himself to be in a main event match of WrestleMania, and it's just, it doesn't sit well with me. Here's going to be me playing devil's advocate and say, yes, Roman Reigns versus The Rock is a dream match, and I'm sure there are people who are going to be excited to see this match happen, but I also would say that I feel like there has been countless missed opportunities where this match could have happened at WrestleMania, especially in the last few years when Roman's been champion. I just feel like the timing of this announcement has just come a bit out of left field. Again, I know nothing's officially been announced as of recording, but it just feels like the position that we're going to go with indicates that yes, we're going to have this as one of our main events for this year's WrestleMania. It's just like, no. And it also, just the vibe gets, it's like, from what I've read online, says that, you know, The Rock has used his position as a TKO board member to basically save WrestleMania. And what I get by that is, you know, there are a few people who, like, big stars who are not going to be part of WrestleMania this year. Now, of course, CM Punk was likely going to appear at WrestleMania this year, whether he be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship or whatever else. He suffered a triceps injury during the Royal Rumble match, so that's obviously put him on the shelf. There was obviously the talk of Brock Lesnar being involved at WrestleMania, but then, of course, with his alleged involvement in the Vince McMahon lawsuit, that's kind of put the kibosh on creative plans for him. But when The Rock kind of indicates that he's going to try and save WrestleMania, what does it need saving from? Because, like, WrestleMania is going to happen regardless of The Rock's involvement. I get it. Again, devil's advocate playing. He is a draw. I understand that, but, you know, to basically ego himself into a position where he's going to be the spotlight, this is who we're going to focus on, and like, you know, taking away from other, you know, more deserving people, and even at the expense, in my opinion, of Cody Rhodes. And it doesn't sit well with me. Like, you know, I get it, you know, The Rock has done this before, and you know, he's been in the main event of WrestleMania at the expense of a popular star, i.e. CM Punk. And it always harkens back to what CM Punk said back in the pipe bomb back in the day, you know, the fact that that Dwayne is in the main event of WrestleMania and he's not, it makes him sick. Again, you can agree to disagree on whether or not, you know, this match should happen at WrestleMania. I tell you what it does remind me of to a certain extent. It reminds me how when Batista returned 10 years ago, just off the back of filming the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, you know, he's entered into the Royal Rumble, he wins the Rumble match at the expense of a popular babyface at the time, Daniel Bryan, and you know, the plan was that he was going to challenge Randy Orton for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, and no matter how many times WWE will tell you otherwise, the plan all along was to have Daniel Bryan. I don't think it was. Like, I distinctly remember, I'm old enough to remember there being distinct graphics for Batista versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Like, that was the plan WWE had. And then, of course, it was because of the fan backlash and, you know, the investment from the fans into Daniel Bryan that, you know, he found his way into the main event. He beat Triple H in the opening match of WrestleMania. He earns his spot in the main event later that night, and he wins the WWE Championship. And what was honestly been one of the, like, the best feel-good moments in WrestleMania history. And going back to our darling Cody Rhodes, he has been sacrificed at the expense of someone who only appears every so often, who, in my opinion, doesn't need to be there. I'm conflicted on the whole thing. Yes, playing devil's advocate, he should be having the dream match with Roman Reigns, but I feel like the timing is just not right for it. Like, you know, again, previous WrestleManias, that could have been a possibility. Hell, you know, I would not be against, say, something happening at next year's WrestleMania or another WrestleMania down the line, you know, owing to what Dwayne Johnson can do with his schedule. But it just, I know I'm babbling and rambling in places, but just it just doesn't sit well with me. And, you know, again, looking at it optimistically, nothing has officially been announced as of right now, but I can see it happening where, with this press conference happening on Thursday in Las Vegas, that, you know, WWE are going to make it official that The Rock is facing Roman Reigns. And of course, seeing the big backlash that I've seen on social media and all other platforms, these things don't go unnoticed. And again, this is an unpopular opinion. Cody, like, given that segment, Cody should not be challenging Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. He's explicitly said in interviews that finishing the story is him winning the WWE Championship, or in this case, the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. You know, I feel like it's pointless if he challenges Seth Rollins, and, like, you know, someone he's beaten before, and even the fact that where the World Heavyweight Championship has just been buried verbally by Roman Reigns. The crux of it is, I don't know what WrestleMania is going to look like in the next few months. I know it's 2 months away, and yes, I'm going to be there in person, but I really don't know what is going to happen. I mean, I'm optimistic that, you know, Cody will factor into that match somehow, whether it's, you know, Cody Rhodes is definitively challenging Roman Reigns, or if it's the, you know, triple threat, or even, this is one hypothetical idea that I have, is Roman defends it against The Rock on one night and then defends it against Cody on the other night. I don't know, really. It could be anything that happens this year. But it just still doesn't feel right given the way they've announced it. And, like, again, it looks like, you know, from everything I'm seeing, that this is going to be the plan. I know weirder things have happened in WWE in terms of, like, you know, what has been booked as opposed to what people want to see. But I guess it's all just kind of like, you know, wait and see, very much so. Again, I'm rambling, but I really don't want to see The Rock using his position and egoing his way into the WrestleMania main event over someone very much deserving, and, you know, again, someone who WWE have put a lot of time and effort into, with Cody Rhodes. To win back-to-back Rumbles, to then be told, oh yeah, you're not going to challenge for Roman this year, even though the signs were pretty much there. Literally, the signs were there that he was going to challenge Roman. Don't, like, just wave that away from the history books and say, oh yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm just conflicted. That's all. I mean, I want to see, you know, the positive in things, again, being the optimist, but it just doesn't feel right. And I feel like, you know, the match itself, if it were to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns, could be very much poorly received by the audience. I mean, I'm going to be there. I'll witness firsthand how the audience are going to react, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a reaction similar to, say, Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar from WrestleMania 20, where both men were walking out of the company, everyone knew it, and just basically crapped on the match. I really don't know what's going to happen. I know WrestleMania is a fair way off. It's all wait and see, but I'm hoping that something does change, and, you know, I hope WWE will look at this and be like, there is a contingency that we might put in place, but it's all, at the end of the day, just wait and see. And yeah, that's my little rant and my little opinion piece on the whole matter. It's all wait and see, but, you know, fingers crossed and all that malarkey, but I guess we'll just wait and see what happens at WrestleMania, and then in turn what happens at the press conference this week, and also what happens in the lead up to WrestleMania if plans do in fact change. It's all wait and see, but, you know, I guess, you know, I'm going to withhold my judgment. I'm going to let things play out, and, you know, if I don't like what I see, I guess, you know what, people are entitled to voice their opinion about it, but it's all, I keep repeating the phrase, it is all wait and see. So let's just see how the story plays out, and, you know, if it involves one person finishing his story, that would be nice. But anywho, thank you very much for watching, guys. That has been a rant and a half, and it's not usually like me to do rant videos, but I thought I'd weigh in on the matter and give my opinion. So, anywho, I hope you guys, you know, have some opinions, and if you want to discuss anything, we can talk about them in the comments. But with that being said, I'm going to leave you here and leave you with some advice, and that is always to enjoy yourself, stay safe, and make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. Thank you for watching, and peace.